Now really quickly before I start gassing this game up as a cure to cancer, I want to shout out the game called Before You Fall. I haven't played it yet because I thought the combat didn't look like it was for me, but Batman literally changed my tune on it. And it looks like they share a ton of the same combat principles. In fact, while doing research for this video, I found another video that talked about the combat of Before You Fall in depth. So if you want to watch that, I'll put a card for it at the end of this video too, and put a link for it in the description. Now if you talk about the combat within any of the traditional Arkham games, a common sentiment you'll hear is that it's almost like a rhythm game. Time your strikes, pace yourself, make sure you're hitting the correct enemy using the correct gadget, pulling off the correct move, etc, etc. Well, all of it, applies to Arkham Shadow, only I would compare it more to Beat Saber since that's basically the VR equivalent of a rhythm game. Make the move when it tells you to. The harder you hit, the better you do. You get it. Obviously, it's more nuanced than that, but at its base, I feel it's a good comparison to make. Before I go into this though, I want to talk about how you can fail doing this non-physics-based combat. Now, Assassin's Creed Nexus is a game I really like. I think it does a great job with the parkour, the stealth, the environments, the characters, just not the combat. Except for Connor, because Connor is perfect. The one fatal flaw I feel this combat makes is the lack of control you as the player has in it. You can initiate an encounter, sure, but you can't be as aggressive as you feel you really should be. You have a dash attack which can break an enemy's guard, but beyond that and throwing weapons, you barely have any control of the combat, such as when an enemy breaks out of your combo, or when they're open for a quick hidden blade stab, or which enemy you're attacking at a given time. The lock-on is very hit or miss. It definitely does not give you the feeling of being the master assassins this game has you play as. Except Connor, because you can throw his tomahawk, and Connor is perfect. It's not outrageously bad or anything, but it just isn't something I would necessarily call good. Now, this could very well be a skill issue on my part. The game clearly doesn't want you to be extremely aggressive all the time, so fighting enemies extremely aggressively is actively going against the game's systems. Doesn't excuse how clunky the combat feels, especially when you're forced into it and stealth or running away is no longer an option. But it is a point that should be considered. Now back to Batman. If you haven't played this game yet and are considering picking it up, I want you to get one thing straight. In this game, you are not playing as yourself playing as Batman. You are playing as Batman, and it will make you fight like Batman. Your enemies are mere obstacles. You decide the tempo of the fight. You decide when to strike. You have all the initiative. Once you get into a flow state, you are the Batman. This game absolutely achieves what it set out to do, which is make you be the Bat. Your movement isn't bound by walk speed because
Batman doesn't walk across a room, he punches across the room.
The combos you need to do, save for the beatdown and the ground takedown, are the perfect length, short and sweet, but you have to pay attention to how you attack or else you're going to drop often. The combo will change depending on your distance from the enemy, and if the enemy has one more beatdown in them, or if the enemy is just the last one in the group. And all of your gadgets are easily accessible and just as fast as you are. You can mix and mash moves to adapt to undesirable situations you may find yourself in. The special combo is so incredibly useful in its stagger and activation, and the obvious techniques that it unlocks. It's not just in movement prompts either. The game also utilizes the IK model of Batman you inhabit, or your player model for those of you who don't know what inverse kinematics is, in ways I have never seen a game do before during combat. It does some things for you, allowing you to do all those particularly brutal Batman moves without all the potential immersion-breaking jank that would come with manually moving a character to those positions realistically. It doesn't do this abruptly either. It only happens after you initiate an attack by punching towards an enemy, which means that the position Batman's model is in isn't far from the position you had to make in order to start attacking in the first place. I play on the hardest difficulty, and the enemies can take a rough beating. If you are not locked in, you will not do as well as when you're focused. The game basically forces you to adapt the Batman mindset, which is an incredible feat by Camouflage. They did such a fantastic job with bringing the good name of the Batman Arkham franchise to VR, for real this time, and giving it the justice it deserved after it was literally killed by the Suicide Squad. And I am so excited to see what they do with it next.